Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Bear vs. Software, Beginner Mode Edition. Fighting out of the blue corner is the wild, the wonderful, the great bear. And fighting out of the red corner, a veteran and seasoned software coming to defend its space. They ain't so slow, it's Simply Cloth Pro. Scheduled tonight we have 3 rounds. First round, the manual efforts of Bear to create a simple pair of trousers and a shirt to compete with Simply Cloth Pro's threads. Second round, Simply Cloth Pro will be bringing the heat with their trouser and shirt combo. And for our final round, we sit on the edge of our seats as each fighter looks for that knockout punch as both corners' efforts are compared. So without further ado, let's get ready for Bear vs. Software.
Round 1, fight!
For this round, I had in my corner, acting as world-class coach and helping me to deliver the goods, Pixo3D, with his cloth sewing tutorials that cover both the trousers and shirt segments. This process began with outlining the general shape of the trousers, or pants if you're American, by using a simple plane. We then use a mirror modifier to keep both sides symmetrical. Well, you do when you center the planes first. Once centered and applied, we then extend this plane to get the look of the legs of the trousers. We then make a few cuts, subdivide and adjust the hip section of the trousers where it will naturally be wider. It may look a little MC Hammer here, but stick with it, the simulation needs it. Now that we have more geometry to work with, we select the entire leg and duplicate this, creating the back leg of the trousers, moving this behind. We then select the outer edge of the back leg and then the front leg edge, pressing Ctrl E and selecting bridge edge loops. Deleting the faces only, we have the edges or lines here connecting the back and front of the trousers, which is essential when we come to use the cloth simulation in a minute. The final touches are to connect the legs under the groin and then the opposite sides for the front and back to connect the right and left legs. Now we are ready for the cloth simulation, but first we go to the Physics Properties tab and add a collision modifier to our model. This way the trousers will collide with it in the simulation and not just go straight through it. Then, selecting the trouser, we go back to the Physics tab, but this time add a Cloth Simulator modifier. This opens up all the settings we will need. We start by enabling sewing under the Shape menu, adjusting the max sewing force and shrink factor. We can then increase the quality settings, but not so much that it slows down the program. Once ready, we can hit the spacebar to play the simulation. If the gaps are too large between the front and back of the trousers, we can adjust this in edit mode, pulling the vertices out. We can also adjust the object collision distances to bring these closer together. The final touches to make the trousers look more realistic and to give them some thickness was to use a subdivision surface modifier and a solidify modifier. I then used a weld modifier to close the seams of the trousers. However, it is the final modifier that gave me some issues, as I found the edges did not close so smoothly. The results were looking rather weird. This might have been due to the order of the modifiers, but in the end I found a fairly decent result through trial and error. Adding a splash of colour, I was done with the trousers.
Well done.
This process was very similar to the creation of the trousers, and Pixel 3D was once again ready to back me in my corner. Once again, this process starts with a plane and mirror modifier, which we then make various cuts to form the basic shape of the shirt. An important use of the knife tool here as we are looking for good edge flow in the collar and shirt sleeve. Which is why we end up merging this triangle so that we end up with quads. Good edge flow is when you should see the loop cut, the yellow line, follow the curve of the collar and sleeve in this example. This will help with the deformation of the shirt in the simulation. The shirt design is very simple, and I'm not even going to make collars and all that, I just want the basics. Extending out a selection of edges to make the sleeves for the arms and aligning these vertices along the x-axis to straighten them. This completes the front section of the shirt. Then it was a case of extruding out the front to the back of the model. Selecting the faces where the hands protrude and the neck, and deleting these. However, for the faces along the top of the shirt and sides, you select only faces to delete, keeping the edges to enable the sewing part of the cloth simulation to work. Once I had the general look down, it was a case of adding the cloth simulation and making sure self-collision and sewing were enabled. From this point, as before, it was hitting the spacebar and realising I was a bit of a silly sausage for not resetting the timeline to 0. Once again I played around with values in the settings to get the shirt looking more realistic. I needed to adjust the shirt a few times as it was wrapping lower on the model, which I have included the painful journey to enlightenment I was on.
Bruh.
And wouldn't you know it, the solution was to lift the shirt before starting the cloth sim. Except now I had the seams looking ugly. Adjusting and smoothing the vertices, rounding the collars and sleeve edges, I finally approached a result I was somewhat happy with.
Nice.
In sculpt mode I smoothed out some of the wrinkles, but the seam lines were not looking good. I used my big brain and moved the weld to the top of the modifier stack, and this did the trick. It was then a splash of colour and the shirt was done, and my manual efforts accomplished.
Outstanding. Round 2.
It was time to see how Simply Cloth Pro fared with this challenge.
Fight!
And Simply Slawa's channel provided the helpful tips I would need to produce the t-shirt and trousers in no time. The software comes with an asset library packed full of all kinds of clothing. I selected male, streetwear, and then all I had to do was drag in the desired clothing, in this case the basic pants, and then line them up with the model, when I had reset the timeline that is. Then it was a case of going into edit mode and adjusting the shape and size to the model. All the modifiers and simulations are loaded in when an asset is selected. All I had to do was press the play button, and just like that, the trousers were done. Well, I wanted the seam to close, so I tried to adjust the trousers with symmetry on, and the opposite side warped in a strange way. It didn't take long to correct this, adjust the hips for the trousers, and a few play buttons and a splash of colour later, and the trousers were done.
Ta-da!
Diving into the asset library once more, a basic male shirt was selected, and the alignment to the model was underway in seconds. I made sure the back of the shirt wasn't intersecting the model, scaled to fit, and then ran the simulation.
Oh my god!
I could see that the sides would need adjusting to close this seam, so back into edit mode I made the necessary adjustments. Once I was happy with the fit, I applied the modifiers. Quick splash of colour and the shirt was done.
Impressive. Final round. Fight!
For the final round we have in the red pants the software results and in the blue pants the manual approach. At first glance it appears a close call between the two. The look of both sets of clothing are similar and making them identical would require little work on either side. Where they greatly differ is in the time spent, which is the convenience factor you are looking for in the software side of things. Simply Cloth Pro is very easy to use and its asset library streamlines the creation of clothing immensely. The adjustable nature of the simulation also means you can take the assets and adapt them to your specific designs. I have only just started using the software, so I am sure that with repeated uses it will become much quicker and the layering of clothing much more detailed for future projects. However, I feel that the manual knowledge was very helpful when tackling the software, giving me an insight into what was going on and adjusting any results that weren't to my liking. That is why I think challenges like this are important, because having an appreciation for the manual process gives you an advantage when using software developed by professionals. You are much more likely to fix problems yourself, use the settings effectively, and produce good results quicker with this fundamental knowledge. At least, this is how I feel about it as a humble Blender beginner. So in conclusion, I would recommend the software as it is easy to use and the tutorials available easy to follow, such as Simply Slawa's tutorials. I would also recommend first tackling this yourself, if only to provide you with some knowledge of how this process works. Reflecting on the results, I think the factor most important to which you prefer will be down to the time you have available. But let me know what you think gave the best results, or if you think the software is worth it. I will state that I am a beginner, chose an easy challenge to start with, and have not extensively shown all the assets in the library. I will continue to look into this software, practice my cloth simulations, and who knows, maybe a rematch is on the cards in the future. Anyway, I thank you for watching if you stuck around for the entire video, and as always, I hope you have a great creative day.